Knock, knock. Who's there? Tool of the day. Tool of the day who? Tool of the day number 4. Digital caliper. Ha! Get on up. Ha! This is a beautiful tool. You're going to love this tool. This is a great tool. Hey, you've probably got one of these sleeves on yours. You can take that off. Digital caliper is a tool that, when used, you can measure the outside dimensions, inside dimensions, and depths. And it's a remarkably accurate tool that you can use for measuring. And so a couple of things about the caliper. There's a way to hold it. So the best way to hold it is to lay your hand kind of like that on the caliper, curl your fingers over to hold it, and use your thumb to move the jaws open and close. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. A couple of things to know. First, before you use the caliper, once you've turned it on, you want to close it all the way and hit the 0 button. The yellow button will zero it out, kind of like a digital scale, how it kind of resets it. Next, this on top will need to be loosened. Make sure it's not tight. That locks it from moving, and we don't need to lock it for any reason, so keep that loose. Okay. Next, of course, you found the on and off button there. This button on top is the mode button, and that switches it between decimals, like 0.500, and millimeters, like 10 millimeters or 10.42 millimeters, okay? And inches, it also does inches. So here is inches. Inches is going to give you kind of a fraction. It's going to give you number of inches and then fractions. We won't use that so much, but it's going to be a great conversion. It's also going to be super helpful when you're learning and practicing using a ruler, because this is the ultimate cheat tool, but we don't want you to cheat, right? We want you to be able to use this successfully, but we're going to see how that goes a little later on in the class. Okay, so you've got it closed all the way and you've zeroed it out. That's good. And most of the things that we do when it comes to lasered wood, we're going to be measuring that in decimals. So to the third decimal, like 0.452. That's the third decimal place. Anything that we do that's 3D printing, we're going to do in millimeters. Okay, so those are really the two big scales that we're going to use. And then again, as you're using a ruler to measure, this is a great tool to help you kind of figure out what measurement is what when it comes to the fractions. So it's going to be a super cool tool to use. There's 3 different ways you can measure with this. The first one is what's called an outside measurement, and that's where you can take your part and put it in between these jaws and measure. Okay, now I'm going to switch modes, and I'm going to switch it to the 3 decimal places. So the 3 decimal places of this one is 0.894. That very last number on there, that 0, that switches between a 0 and a 5, a 0 and a 5. You're just going to ignore that number. So this particular part has a width of 0.894 inches. Okay, so that's the first way to measure. Now, if you're measuring something soft, like foam or even wood, you don't want to push too hard on this because it can compress the material and you won't get an accurate measurement. If we were measuring marshmallows and you measured it, if you crush it, if you close this enough, it'll just crush that marshmallow and it's not giving you an accurate measurement. So that's something to keep in mind. The second measurement that is super cool is called an inside measurement, and that works really well at, say, a measurement like this, measuring a circle. Okay, and so you can see here that goes on the inside. It would also work on something like this. You put it in and you measure it. Okay, and there's the measurement, and that measurement is 0.218. Again, you ignore that last number. The third thing that you can use to measure it with is the depth of something, like the depth of a hole or something like that. And a lot of times you would open it up and this rod comes out the bottom and the numbers correspond. And so in this case then, I could put this down and then close it. And this measurement is 2.372. And so that is a digital caliper. when you're all done with the digital caliper, you close it. I always like to zero it again if need be, turn it off, and you want to store it in your case. Now your case comes with an extra battery, and these can be really dangerous for dogs or brothers or things like that. So if you can store that battery in that compartment there, and then maybe put a little paper towel or something in there, or a piece of tape that will hold it in there so it doesn't fall out, that would be a really good thing. One thing to know on this, if you're changing the battery, all you need to do is slide that cover open and take the battery out and put the new battery in. If your caliper is fading a lot, or if it is constantly switching between millimeters and inches without your permission, that means the battery is probably starting to fail. And so that's why there's an extra battery. But the best way to keep your battery going is to turn off your caliper when you're not using it and keep it in your case. So it should be in the case, ready to go whenever you need it. And that is the digital caliper. And this has been checked out to you a lot like a textbook. So take good care of it, and it'll come back to school with you when we return in hopefully November. Tool of the day number 4.